of Constitutional Affairs and the present government, which is still the WIPM government, have been doing. There have been lengthy negotiations with the Dutch, and they cover all kinds of areas which I will come to later on. I have stayed away as much as possible from political statements. Even though I am chairman of the WIPM party, I give free advice to the Executive Council on matters regarding constitutional affairs. The young commissioners have proven that they can defend themselves and have done so eloquently since they have been elected. I can assure you that wherever I travel, I get high praise for our two young WIPM commissioners and how they are doing their job. As a matter of fact, just last week I had to make a speech on St. Martin, and a number of Dutch residents of St. Martin came up to me and said, you know, your son, he's too big for Saba. He needs to be given a larger field where he can operate. I told him thank you, but I think he has chosen for Saba. But it just goes to show you how they have progressed. Prime Minister Balkenende has been no less than 3 times on television in the Netherlands bragging on Saba's young commissioners and how good a job they are doing. There's an election coming up, and this is one of the reasons why I'm coming to you on this program. An unnecessary election called for January 22nd. We had a large meeting in Curacao in June where it was decided that the election would be postponed, the life of the present parliament would be extended by a few months, and we left happy that we had found a solution to this problem, and all of a sudden, when I was going along with my son, the Commissioner of Constitutional Affairs, and Island Council member Rolando Wilson, who was also our party leader of the WIPM, we were going to Bonaire when we were notified by telephone by State Secretary Mrs. Amelia Nicholson that the Prime Minister had decided on her own to still call for elections in January because she was feeling the heat of the opposition on Curacao. This has always been the problem for the other islands. The Netherlands Antilles has functioned as a second government for the island territory of Curacao. Curaçao's needs always have come first. Every crisis on Curacao became a crisis for the other islands, and that is one of the reasons why I have throughout my lifetime advised the Saba people, listen, this thing is not functioning for us. We have to look in the direction of Holland, and it was not easy to convince Holland to assume responsibility for Saba, Statia and Bonaire, direct responsibility. It was not easy, but thanks to your help in supporting my call in the referendum of November 5th, 2004 for a direct relationship with Holland, we were able to convince finally the Dutch government, after 3 trips to the United Nations, we were able to convince them that yes indeed, because of the historic ties that we have with Holland, that it was necessary for them to assume responsibility for Saba, and that is what we have been negotiating up until when I left as Commissioner, and since 2007 under the new Commissioner as advisor, I've been going along, we have been meeting, we're still meeting, we're still negotiating to get the best possible position for Saba. Another big event that took place was the meeting that was held on Curacao on September 30th. I was present in that meeting as advisor to the council members, and it was actually a meeting between St. Martin, Holland and Curacao, and in that meeting it was decided that as of the 10th of October 2010 the Netherlands Antilles will cease to exist, and that and even before then all the authority, and this is important in connection with this unnecessary election for January, all the authority now in the hands of the present federal government of the Netherlands Antilles will be passed over to St. Martin and to Curacao and to Holland as far as Saba is concerned, Statia and Bonaire. Now, if you are a chauffeur, a driver for somebody, and you read in the paper that the person intends to sell his car and to walk for exercise, shouldn't you be concerned and say, wait a minute, I'm this man's driver, it means that I'm not going to have a job. So the same thing with the Netherlands Antilles. So we're going to have an election, but there's nothing for those that will be elected to administer over. You have an election for a parliament, and there will be no tasks that are assigned to the central government, because those tasks are going to be passed over to Curaçao, St. Martin and the Netherlands. I want to also give my lifelong reasons for serving you. When Tim Hector was buried in Antigua, I remember George Odlum from St. Lucia, he made a very eloquent speech in which he asked the people of Antigua, where were you when Tim Hector, when they burned down his house? Where were you when they killed his wife? Where were you when he offered he sacrificed his life for you? No one can look me in the face and say, well, where were you when Saba needed representation? I have been in politics from the 1960s. I started out in 1962, and anyone that is listening to this program and who have a conscience will have to say, somewhere in my lifetime I've met Will Johnson and he has helped me. If he hasn't helped me personally, he helped the island to grow so that I could benefit, my family could benefit. There's no one on this island that could look me in the face and say, you did nothing for the island, or you did nothing for me, or because of your political career I am not in a better financial position, I have better health care nowadays, or what have you. So I could stay home at this point in my life and die one day at a time, or I could stay involved, remain active, and that is what I have chosen to do. I intend to remain active as long as I'm in good health. My party will participate in the election in January, even though we consider it a very unnecessary election. But on the other hand, there's no turning back for Saba in the constitutional process that has been started. So we cannot allow anyone else to take the seat in Parliament and then perhaps try to stop the process, because stopping the process means problems for you. As I said, there is no other alternative. And let me explain how a new government is formed. After the elections are over, the first thing that the governor does when the elections are over, he calls those political parties that have won, the people that will be members of Parliament, to Curaçao, to his office. He discusses the outcome of the election. He asks you what direction would you like to see the government of the coming 4 years go into, and so on. I know, because the governor asked me in 1998, together with Mr. Rufus McWilliam, to form a government. I was successful after 2 months in dealing with all sorts of issues and problems to form the Susie Römer cabinet. I was the informateur, I was the formateur together with Mr. McWilliam. And it was an experience for me, but I was assisted also by the then new incoming Senator Ray Hassel. I had Mr. Blackburn. He was just young and fresh out of Holland. He was assisting me as my secretary, and Roy Smith was also involved. And as informateur, formateur, I know how the process goes. So believe me, the governor will call in those that are elected, and that's why I don't want to make false promises to people and tell them you're going to be state secretary, or you're going to be this, or you're going to be that. The reality is there will probably be no state secretaries, given the fact that there will be nothing left